transition button, right? You're going to click
No,
through.
yeah, I'm just gonna click through. Yep. Okay, I'll introduce myself and people can excuse all of my drinks. Is anyone else like that? I literally, every time, everywhere I go, I have like 7 drinks. I'm Becca. I'm a nutritionist. I'm also in the process of becoming a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, which is a little bit more extensive. I'd like to continue education and always be learning more because in my experience, I've been doing this now for about 7 years. There's like so much to know. And it's, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. So I work exclusively now with women, age range usually around like 35 to 60-ish. And mainly we've continued to work with women that weight loss isn't like simple. I think everyone knows women that are like, yeah, I did this diet, it worked great for me, and now I've sustained it, for my life. But then there's other people that are like gut issues, hormonal issues. They've been dieting for years and they can't seem to lose weight. And it's like your body seems like it's fighting you. Those are the people that we work with. Those are because myself and my business partner, Liz, all have gone through those things. So I myself have dealt with adrenal fatigue, hormonal issues. I lost my period because I actually did CrossFit for quite a bit and competed in CrossFit and just got way too lean. Had someone that was doing my nutrition at the time that obviously wasn't asking those questions like, do you still have a cycle? Because that's very important for your health. And then when I stopped competing because I got injured, I actually wanted to get pregnant and couldn't, obviously, without a cycle. So I had to go through IVF, had to go through all that process, gained a lot of weight, and then went through the back process of trying to lose that weight very unhealthily, and then ended up in a complete kind of adrenal burnout. I don't know if anyone's tried to lose weight fast after having a baby, but your body usually doesn't handle it too well. And so I've been through healing my body through that phase. My business partner has Hashimoto's. She also had children's rheumatoid arthritis. And so we've dealt with kind of a lot of what I consider the medical, field looks at it as like you're sick, but not sick enough to be helped. So a lot of autoimmunity, a lot of thyroid conditions, PCOS, things like that. So that's kind of the population that we specialize in. But today in particular, we're going to talk about the holidays. We're going to talk about all the things that surround the holidays, how we approach the holidays with our clients, obviously allow you guys to ask any questions, but that is essentially what we do. We work with women nutritionally, lifestyle, health-wise, to help people kind of find their best self and their best version of nutrition for them. So if you guys have any questions as we go, please feel free to ask. But that's kind of a little bit about my background. And, if you want to know any more, I'm happy to answer. But we'll kind of dive in because I know it is the holidays and we all have lots of things to do. So how to handle our nutrition during the holidays. So go ahead and we'll just click through. All right. So how to approach the holidays. Is this, 2 computers going? Sorry.
Yeah,
totally fine.
Yeah, so these guys,
Totally fine. Okay, we're good. We're good. All right. So how to approach the holidays. We're actually doing with our current clients a little bit of like a holiday challenge. And this is kind of what we set up for them. And it's been really helpful. So the first thing that I tell people to do, print out a December calendar, like one that you can visualize, and write down all the stuff that you have going on. So if you have a friend's party, if you host Christmas Eve, if you go somewhere for Christmas Day, like we had the Polar Express last weekend. This weekend, I actually don't think we have a lot going on, but next weekend we're having friends over for a party. There tends to be a lot of things going on. And what I talk to people is like, they think in a macro view. They think in a micro view. They don't think in a macro view. And what I mean by that is in this moment at this holiday party, having a drink or two and a cookie, not a huge deal. But then I back up and look at the whole month of December and I've drank 3 bottles of wine and eaten 12 dozen cookies. And so we talk a lot about macro view and being able to visualize. Like I look at my calendar, I actually have the calendar on the next slide that I'm going to show you guys in a second, but this is where we kind of determine like what's worth it or waste it. And I'll give you an example. Worth it for me, homemade cinnamon rolls, my favorite thing ever. I make them on Christmas morning. I usually enjoy one and then I'll, pick at them for a week or so and then they go in the garbage. But those are worth it to me. They're very warm and gooey and they're homemade. They're amazing. Waste it. The like day old store-bought Jewel holiday cookies that are from your business's holiday party that you brought home because someone gave them to you and they're just like sitting in your house and you're just eating them day after day. Probably not really worth it. I also think like a drink with a girlfriend you haven't seen in 10 years, totally worth it. A Miller Lite at your holiday party for work that like you got to go home after and make dinner for your family, probably not as worth it, you know? And so we kind of have to take ourselves out of the situation to be able to evaluate, is this worth it? Because in the situation, the environment kind of influences us. You know, it doesn't seem that bad in that moment, and it might not be that bad if it wasn't surrounded by all of these other holiday things going on, if that makes sense. So the other thing that we talk about is creating personal guidelines. Okay, so with personal guidelines, we talk about in a weekly basis, coming up with like a list of things that you feel is your minimum that you need to keep to kind of stay on track. And this might look different in different phases of life. Okay, so in different phases of life, I mean, if you're in for example, if you're an accountant and you're in accounting season, this will probably look different than like if you're in the summertime, you don't have a lot going on and you have a lot more freedom to cook and to do all of those things. So different phases of life might look different, but creating personal guidelines for me, I'll give you an example. My personal guidelines are on a weekly basis, and they are, we don't go out to eat more than twice a week. And if it is more than, you know, we try to stick to once, but if it is more than twice a week and it's out of necessity, I'm not just like, YOLO, I'm out to eat, let's get the worst thing on the menu. It's like, okay, I'm going to try and get as close to what I would eat at home because this is out of necessity. It's not like date night with my husband. Okay. The next one is alcohol that I usually have a personal guideline around. I can get triggered by alcohol. It's like never just one type thing with me. And so I have to put a guideline around it because once I start, I tend to want more and more. And so for me, it's like 1 to 2 drinks, 1 to 2 nights a week. That's my personal guideline around alcohol. And then I do 4 to 5 workouts a week, and I make sure I'm 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night. I don't do more than like 3 or 4 personal guidelines because you don't need 10 things to try to adhere to every week. You're never going to succeed with it all. You're going to end up feeling like you're failing, and then you're going to give up. And so I usually say 3 to 4 personal guidelines that are doable, but a little bit of a reach. Like for me, some weeks that alcohol goal is kind of a hard goal for me. Like I want to have more than that. And on occasion, yes, vacation, stuff like that, I do allow myself these things, but these are the 3 to 4 things for me that if I keep them in place every week, I feel pretty good. Like I maintain a healthy weight. I don't feel like I'm slipping. I don't wake up feeling bloated or hungover or any of those things. And so I talk about kind of creating your own personal guidelines. Usually 3 to 4 is a good goal. Okay. And then I mentioned the macro review. This is micro review. So I'm going to show you guys my holiday calendar so you kind of get a visual of what I have going on. So in December, and some people, like we had obviously our clients do this. Some people have like so many things. I've realized maybe I don't have that many friends. Basically, I have weekend stuff. During the week, we're very busy. I have 2 children under the age of 3, so I don't do much during the week. But I wrote down what I have and what I'm going to enjoy at that moment. Okay, so for example, last Saturday we went bowling alley food, like not really worth it to me. The pizza's like lukewarm, not really feeling that. I don't really need a beer from the bowling alley. Not for me, not worth it. Polar Express, I really wanted the hot chocolate, so I allowed myself that. We had a wine tasting event on the 9th. I did a couple sips of that. It's a Thursday night. I got to work the next day. I'm not trying to get hammered on Thursday nights. I don't handle alcohol well, so that's me. So I allowed myself a few sips. But what this is doing, and you can kind of see, like Christmas Eve, 2 drinks, 1 dessert. Christmas Day, cinnamon rolls, but no drinks. And so I've kind of evaluated ahead of time. I'm taking myself out of the emotional aspect of it because if everyone knows, like in the moment, you get wrapped up. Everyone else is drinking. Everyone else is enjoying these things and you want to, and that's fine, but you got to pick and choose your moments. Because if you look at this, if I were to have, you know, a couple drinks at all of these things, I'm having 15 drinks by the end of the month. Like that adds up if we're not really watching what we're eating every other day of the week. So this helps just take a step back and decide, especially if you have multiple events like days in a row, decide which ones are worth it, which ones can I kind of pass it up, I'm okay. And then you have a plan going into it, which is one of the biggest things. People don't make plans going into parties. They don't make plans going into events, and you hope for the best. I always say, like, hope is a beggar. Hope begs for things. It begs for things to work out. You got to have a plan. You got to have conviction. You have to have faith that, like, I'm going to stick to this. I've committed to myself, and then follow through with that commitment. So I hope that kind of helps visualize what I was talking about with the holidays and kind of creating a little calendar around it. But that tends to help a lot of our clients. All right. So I'm sure we've all like New Year's resolutions. I I hope that we don't like really live and die by them. We don't want to wait until New Year's. So it kind of continues. I don't know if anyone struggles with like the all or nothing mindset, like either has to be perfect or why do it, right? The New Year's resolution is like such a fuel for that fire, because it is, I am going all in, I'm waiting until January 1st, whatever I do prior to January 1st doesn't matter. I'm starting on January 1st and I'm going to commit to everything, right? I'm going to change my whole life. And then like January 13th rolls around and it's like, I didn't do any of that. And so we talk about perfection never happens, consistency always wins. If you talk to anyone that's had like a major transformation, and I prior to my competing days in CrossFit, I went through a process where I've lost about 50 pounds in 7 to 12 months or so through consistency. It was complete. I changed the type of workout I was doing. I started doing a better control of my diet, and it was just consistent. It was never perfect. There were days I missed the gym. There were days that I went out and I had too many drinks, or I went out and had too much to eat, or whatever it looked like. But it was always the next moment, the next day, as soon as I could, I would get back to my consistency. And if you've ever talked to anyone that's had a large transformation, you know, I've worked with people that have lost 100 pounds, 100 plus pounds. They did not do everything perfect for years. Those transformations don't happen in the matter of a few months. Those are years of working on consistency and finding what works best for you. Because I think a lot of people don't realize that like this shifts over time too. What works for you today might not work for you 3 months from now. You have to be open to kind of pivoting and open to letting that be pliable and letting it be moldable with your life. So what can we do now? Foundations. Do not commit to anything severe throughout the holidays. Like, why? Why try to be strict during the holidays? You know, you're torturing yourself. So what I tell people is foundations matter quite a bit. So water is a big one. During our holiday challenge right now, we're doing 3 liters of water a day, which is about 110 ounces, I think 96 ounces. So 3 liters of water a day. And if you notice, if you don't realize how much you drink and you start drinking 3 liters of water, you're very full. You're going to the bathroom and you're peeing things out a lot more. You're not as hungry. You don't have as many cravings. You probably have a lot more energy, because a lot of people tend to be dehydrated. So 3 liters of water a day, movement. This might not be a workout every day, but I say 45 minutes of movement. And on days that we don't work out, this for me looks like 3 15-minute walks. I break it up. I don't have time to sometimes commit to 45 minutes straight. And so like in between meetings, if a meeting ends early or whatever it is, before I go get the kids from daycare and I have 10 minutes, I go for a walk around my block. And if I do that throughout the day, that adds up quite a bit. 8 minutes here, 12 minutes here. I'm at 10,000 steps at the end of the day, and I've gotten in movement. Okay. Sleep. I don't know if anyone have ever like, I posted this on my Instagram last week. I'm like, sleep, poor sleep is equivalent to a hangover. Like I feel hungover when I'm 5.5 hours of broken sleep. I crave things. I'm hungry. I want all the carbs. I want all the caffeine. I want all the sugar, and I don't want to do anything with my life. And so we talk about making sure that you are in bed and giving yourself the opportunity for 7 to 8 hours per night. And then the last thing I said, include more good. So what I mean by this is in terms of food, a lot of people try and be perfect. And if it's not perfect, it's like, no, whatever, I'll start again tomorrow. I'll start again Monday. But instead, what if, okay, I want a sandwich at lunch. I want a wrap at lunch. A lot of people like demonize bread or carbs, but if that's what you want, okay, can we add some baby carrots to it? Can we add half an apple to it? Can we add nourishment? Can we add nutrients? Can we add color? And so that's why I try to evaluate every meal that I build. I'm like, what do I have in my fridge? Like this morning we had eggs. I'm like, do we have any leftover vegetables? Do we have any leftover anything that I can like chop up and throw as an omelet? So I'm always evaluating my food and how can I add more good to my food versus what do I need to take away? What do I need to restrict? What do I need to remove? Think, how can I add more good? And coming at it from that is like a much easier way of filling your plate with good things, because the reason that a lot of people, I don't know if anyone's like a late night eater, like at the end of the day, you just end up eating everything because you realize you haven't eaten all day, or like you're craving the things after dinner or whatever it is. It's usually because of malnourishment throughout the day. So if people are not eating consistently, blood sugar is all over the place. If you're not eating whole foods, you're probably not getting a whole ton of nutrients from your food. Your body's going to drive you to eat. Like our bodies are very, very smart. Unfortunately, the body doesn't realize that like today food is very accessible and very palatable and very addicting. but the body knows you need nourishment. And so if you have not eaten like a piece of a vegetable in 3 weeks, your body's driving you to get nutrients. But what it does is it drives you through cravings. And then you're looking for very calorie dense foods because the body's like, I'm not getting enough nourishment one way or the other. I need it. Go find food. But we look for Oreos, bread, all the things that are not nutrient dense. And so your body's trying to get you to find more nourishment. And I find a lot of times people that come to us and are trying to lose weight, and we switch to a more focus on the good, focus on more whole foods, they realize like, I don't know how, I can't even eat enough with whole foods. I'm so full all the time. But unfortunately, we eat plenty of processed foods because processed foods are not very filling. They're not very satiating. Things, I don't know about you guys, but like I could probably eat an entire sleeve of Ritz crackers and be like, I'm still hungry. But if I ate 3 chicken breasts, I would be like stuffed to the brim. And so it's understanding that different foods definitely have different satiety levels, and being able to add more good in will help us remove the bad without even realizing it. I hate saying good and bad, but I mean, let's be honest. Oreos is not good for you. Like they're not. They're delicious. They're not good for you. And then I always say maintenance is progress during this time, because a lot of people that, like, for example, we work with a lot of women during certain times of the year. It's like, I'm not seeing any weight loss. And it's like, yeah, but you're going through an extremely high stress time right now where maybe you've lost a family member, you've lost a job, you're, not sleeping because you have a newborn. Maintenance during that time is progress. Like, imagine if you weren't focusing on the good. Imagine if you weren't focusing on movement and water. What would be happening then? We'd probably be gaining weight during the holidays. And so kind of, I don't like to say like lowering your standards, but knowing that it doesn't always have to look like the scale going down to see progress. Sometimes it can be, I feel better, I have better energy. Instead of eating 7 holiday cookies, I only had 1. Like that is progress in our eyes. I always tell people, like, compare relatively to last year, compare to 3 years ago. Like, are you making improvements on your choices and things around the holidays, especially because I think the holidays are a big trigger for a lot of people? That is progress. So knowing that maintenance is progress during this time. All right. I tried to use some fun little memes. So this is why New Year's resolutions go wrong. They come from a place of desperation or a place of like hate of where we are. I don't know if anyone's ever been here. I mean, I'll be honest, if anyone's ever had a kid, like you don't really love your body postpartum. It's like, I want this to change fast. And so a lot of times New Year's is like, we've just come off of 3 to 4 weeks of the holidays. We're bloated, we're puffy, we're tired. We don't feel good. And so it's like, I hate where I'm at. I want to change it ASAP. And coming from that place is not super healthy. Like, it's not very sustainable. It's not going to work long-term. We need to come at it from like, how can I approach this to enjoy the process in some way, to find joy in my day-to-day, to build confidence through my actions and my choices, versus I'm desperate. I have to see, because like typically if someone's doing something out of desperation and they're like, I have to see the scale move, I hate how I feel. If it doesn't work in a week or 2, you're going to give up on it. You're going to go try and find something else. You're not going to be consistent with it. And so coming from that place is not very effective for people. We look to fix things fast, which never lasts. Anyone's done like a crash diet, cut calories really, really low, like not eaten, done fasts, juice cleanses, anything like that? How do they turn out? We're not usually doing them for very long, right? Like it's like a sprint and then we burn out. And so trying to go at things to be too extreme is not very sustainable. And unfortunately, it's not just like mentally unsustainable, physically it's unsustainable. So what happens, and I talked about this a little bit if you guys attended the last seminar that I did, called something around metabolic adaptation. So when we go into these extreme diets, we usually slash calories quite a bit, or we like remove full food groups, which slashes calories. And what this does is the body goes from getting, say, I'm going to use totally arbitrary numbers, but say the body's getting 2,000 to 2,500 calories a day because we're eating very highly palatable, highly calorie dense foods. And you're like, I need to make a change. I'm cutting to 1,200 calories. So you've created about a 1,300 calorie gap from what your body was used to getting. And so the body can for a while keep up, and you'll probably drop weight because you're going to drop water weight, because when we consume food, the body retains a little bit of water, which it should. Water helps pull nutrients into our cells. It's necessary. But that's when, like, if anyone's ever cut carbs or done keto, you see a lot of weight really quick. You're dropping water because your body's peeing out a lot of excess water. And so you lose this weight initially, but then the body's like, I can't keep up with this. 1,200 calories is not enough to survive for me. And so I'm going to slow down your metabolism. I'm going to close the gap. And so maybe initially when your body was keeping up with it, you were burning fat, you were burning a little bit of, probably muscle, and you were losing water weight. And then you see the weight loss kind of plateau. And you're like eating, you're like, 1,200 calories is really hard, but I'm going to keep up with it. And your body's like, you know what? I don't have enough energy to do what I need to do on a day-to-day basis. So I'm going to start taking energy from what it considers like non-essential functions. And that includes digestion, that includes reproductive. A lot of times that can be like brain function. You'll start to be more tired. You'll start to have like brain fog, energy's low. Digestion, a lot of people either get constipated, they have bloating, they have like acid reflux can start to develop. And so the body basically conserves energy from things that, in my opinion, we need. Like, you need to go to the bathroom every day. It's a major way of detoxification. We need energy to do our jobs, to keep up with our families, and we need a cycle to be healthy. And so the body's like, no, 1,200 calories, I can't do this. And so it slows everything down. And what that also does is it then primes your body for fat gain. Because if we've cut these calories so hard, so fast, and now your body's like, whatever you're going to give me, I'm going to put on as fat because that is safe. Fat is basically like survival. And so a lot of times what happens to people is they do these extreme calorie deficits, last for maybe a month, 3 months, maybe if they're lucky. And then they go back to eating how they were. And then they gain all this weight back. And then some usually, because your body is now at a way slower metabolism than where you even started. And now it's just going to gain all this weight back. And so that's why these extreme diets are very unsustainable, not only mentally, because like, who wants to eat like a rabbit all the time, but also physically, because your body will literally start to fight you. Your body will start to fight back. And that's like the base surface level of what will happen. If you do it too long, which we've seen for a lot of people, that's where like autoimmunity becomes triggered, thyroid becomes triggered, gut health becomes majorly triggered, hormonal issues for females become triggered. And unfortunately, males don't deal with this. Females are because of how sensitive our hormones are, and because we are the ones that carry children, our bodies need to hold on to a little bit of fat. And so the body becomes very threatened when it drops too much fat too quick. So I hope that makes sense. Does that make sense to everyone? Yeah, okay. And then the bottom line, the quick fixes don't fix the main problem, which is our mindset. Like, I'll be honest, guys, most people know that lean proteins and healthy fats and vegetables are good for you, and alcohol and chocolate and tons of bread isn't good for you. Like, most people know that, but putting it into application becomes a lot harder because the demons that exist. So we're going to talk, a lot of this is going to be around mindset, because to be totally honest, like, I can probably spew out some fun facts about food, but like, most of us know the baseline of what needs to happen around food. The mindset piece, though, is huge around the holidays. So something that I have people do, our clients in particular, obviously, is this kind of 3 steps around fixing the mindset. And everyone is different. I'll be honest. Everyone that I work with is different when it comes to like what triggers them, what their past is with diet. Sometimes even like a lot of this stems back to childhood, what you observed your mom doing, what you did as a child. I just started working with someone yesterday that she said her mom put her on phentermine, which is a fat burner, at the age of 8. And there was a lot of negative connotations around like, you need to lose weight. And so now she's 75. She has thyroid issues. She has Hashimoto's. She has all kinds of stuff going on because she tried to diet her entire life. And it was back and forth of dieting, binging. And so the number one thing is having awareness, because a lot of times we don't even realize like what our triggers are. Anyone say like, I'm a stress eater. Okay, we identify as a stress eater, but what stresses you out? What do you go to when you get stressed? What are those foods? Where are they happening? Are they in the house? Do you go and buy them? Do you go out with friends to happy hour? Like, what are these situations? And emotionally, we have to pay attention to the self-talk, the justifications. I don't know if anyone listens to Mel Robbins. I love Mel Robbins. She has what she calls a 5-second rule. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I use it a lot to get out of bed in the morning. I wake up at about 4:50 right now to pump. And then I work out at 5 a.m. in my cold garage, and it's miserable, but getting out of bed is the hardest part, right? Like, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get out of bed, because there's about 5 seconds, sometimes less, before your brain will start to justify things. It will start to negotiate with you. It will start to work. And so the 5-second rule has helped millions of people all over the world. Like, she actually talks about how it's helped some people like keep themselves from committing suicide. Yep. 5-second rule. Mel Robbins. She's amazing. Follow her. She has tons of great content. But we have justifications. We have excuses. We have these things that we talk to ourselves. Like, I don't know if anyone's been like, This is totally me. I have a glass of wine. I should stop after 1 or 2. And then after 2, you're like, well, I'll just pour another half. And then it's like, I just finished the bottle. And you end up talking yourself into it. We justify. I worked hard this week. I worked out every day this week. I deserve these things. I should be able to eat these things. Like we start kind of negotiating. And so we have to understand when this is happening. And I'm not saying this is something like you understand it and you're aware of it and then it's going to go away. It's not going to go away right away. You have to start creating awareness around it so that you can see when it's happening. And kind of, I call it, the next step is called buffering, but you have to see it first. You have to see when it's happening, where it's happening. Sometimes it's a negative self-talk. Like, I don't know if anyone walks by a mirror. I'm so fat. Oh, I'm so disgusted. Like those negative talks, your body senses that stress. It senses those emotions. It's not just like in one ear and out the other. Your body can feel those things. So also how we have reactions around food, like, oh, I can't just have one. Like realize how you start to identify as things, how you start to identify as a stress eater or an emotional eater, or I can't control myself around XYZ food, you know, because a lot of people don't realize how much they actually identify as that. And if you identify it as that, you're going to live into it. You're going to do it. So physically, another thing, and this is something that I think takes a little bit of time, how do foods make you feel physically? Not emotionally, but physically. So this is something that I think if you consume a more highly processed diet or like more sugar, more carbs, you might not realize it right now because the body is in just a state of inflammation and it essentially becomes used to how you're feeling. But if you, I don't know if anyone's ever done like a Whole30 or like a removal diet where they've removed sugar, you've removed carbs or whatever it might be. And then you reintroduce things, you feel awful. Like you feel hungover, you have a headache, you have like a stomach ache. I went through quite a period where I've removed sugars. And now I can't have more than like a cookie or a half piece of cake, or else I'm like curled up in a ball because my stomach hurts so bad. And so part of me is like, well, what was my body doing when I consumed lots of sugar? Like what type of state was my body in then if it affects me so negatively now? And so I tell people, try to pay attention to like, are you tired after you eat? Do you have a stomach ache if you eat too much sugar? Do you have like, you know, these reactions to alcohol? Try to pay attention to how food makes you feel, because a lot of people don't even realize like I'm burping after I eat, or I'm gassy after I eat these foods, or I'm bloated after I eat these foods. And it might not always be like sugar or alcohol. Like I can't eat Brussels sprouts very much. I can't eat cruciferous vegetables. Like I get pretty gassy. I can't do dairy very much. I can't do yogurts. I can only do a full fat yogurt on occasion. Otherwise I get super like period type cramps. And so we have to kind of pay attention to what foods make us feel what ways to find the best diet that works for you, because this is different for everyone. The next step in this, after we create this awareness, and I tell people like, keep a journal of how foods make you feel, what type of temptations and triggers you seem to have. And then once we start to identify them, put a buffer situation in. So what I mean by that, okay, I know that stress triggers me, particularly for me, if I don't get like my to-do list done for the day, I get extremely stressed out. I'm an anxious person in general. Like I tend to be it has to happen how I want it to happen. And if it doesn't, you don't want to be around me. And so I know that. And then my poor husband has dealt with that for many years. And so I asked myself, like, would you want to be around you right now? And it's a really honest question. Like, I'm sure we're all females here. We've all had moments where like, you wouldn't want to be around yourself, but you're angry and you can't stop being angry because that seems impossible, right? Like you don't even know why you're angry anymore, but you're like, I'm angry and I have to stay angry because this is how I am right now. And so instead, find these triggers. Like for me, I didn't get done what I wanted to today. Okay, pause, buffer the moment. Instead of just react, instead of just that immediate reaction, buffer the moment. Okay, what can I do tomorrow? What can I maybe do later tonight that's easy, that I can do after the kids go to bed? Like try and calm yourself down almost and talk yourself in that situation. It's not as bad as it may seem. Or for example, if you know going into the pantry is a trigger for you because you see the things I can grab. I don't know if anyone else is that. That's totally me. Like I go into the pantry and I'm just like taking from 5 different things, like a bite of 5 different things. And so sometimes we'll have people put Post-its on things just to like create a buffer, whether it's the bag of chips, whether it's the case of Oreos or cookies or whatever, like put a Post-it on it to force you to buffer. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, walk away. And kind of get yourself to start showing yourself you can, because unfortunately, when we continue to give into our temptations, when we continue to give into those triggers, it's a learned behavior. You basically create a new habit. It's almost unconscious at that point. Like anyone ever, like you feel like you black out sometimes. Like I looked up and I ate the whole bag of popcorn. Like it's mindless. So creating this buffer and learning to pause in that moment and kind of question and challenge. And for the negative self-talk, like you see yourself in the mirror, I'm so fat. Or for example, I put on a sports bra the other day that I ordered that I thought in a size that it would fit. By the way, the one thing I hate about COVID, I never go into stores anymore to try stuff on, but I ordered something online and I put it on and I'm usually a medium and it was really tight. And the initial thought, you're fat, you need to lose weight. But what if, no, maybe this just isn't the right size. Like, that's not a big deal. I just need a different size. Like shifting the negative talk into neutral, into this isn't this big of a deal. I'm acting on the things I want to make a change for this. And then the last step is pivot, setting yourself up for better. So we talk a lot about discipline and how discipline is not a characteristic. Discipline is a skill. And discipline is given to the people that set up their environment in the best way possible. That you have the right things in the house to eat, that you have your clothes set up in the morning to get to the gym on time, like that you set yourself up in the best way so that the choices become easy. If I don't have the right foods in the house, like I think that I have a good amount of discipline, I still don't make the best choices. But if I have my food prepped for the week, or I have my protein at least made for the week, I have an easy salad kit, I have like, for me, every week, I plan out what dinners we're having every night. And I plan out my grocery list to know that I have food to make breakfast in the morning. I have a simple breakfast that takes me like 5 to 7 minutes. If I get home from daycare right before my first meeting, I can make it super quick because I know it only takes that amount of time. Like I've set up my environment so flawlessly out of so many years of practice that I'm automatic now. Like I go through my day so automatic. It's not even a question of what I'm eating because it's in the house, it's prepped, I heat it up, I take it back, I keep working. So many things in our life are unknown because we don't set them up. And so then you have to make hard decisions. And unfortunately, as humans, we pick the comfortable decision. We pick the, oh, I want to enjoy my food, so I'm going to go get Potbellies instead of making this food that I have at home because the food isn't made yet, or I don't even have food in my house. So now I have to go get Potbellies. We make these decisions so hard on ourselves. And to be totally honest, the people I see succeed that we work with are people that diligently set themselves up for success over and over again. And do something, didn't work, okay, do something else. Like it doesn't have to be exactly X, Y, and Z. It could be A, it could be K, it could be L, like it could be any situation. You have to kind of practice what works best for you. So the other thing that I found very helpful, I don't know if anyone else has like a witching hour, like 4 to 6 p.m. is my witching hour. I'm always in like the kitchen pantry area. I set up a snack at that time now. So like I plan out my day of what I consume. I'm trying to make sure I'm eating enough and eating good whole foods to make sure my breast milk production is good and so that I can exercise and have good energy throughout the day. And so I plan out my day. So I plan an apple and peanut butter or a snack that I enjoy during that time so that it's occupying the time that I might normally pour a glass of wine or go in the pantry and grab something random or eat my kids' food. Like I plan in those things so that I don't get set up for failure. So those 3 steps are very, very helpful for mindset. All right, oop, I doubled that. Okay, how to set proper goals for New Year's. Number 1, make them measurable. I talk to a lot of people at the beginning of the year. How many people say, I want to eat healthier and work out more? I'm like, what does that mean? That could be, I want to eat less, chocolate. That could mean I want to eat, 1,500 calories of whole foods, unprocessed vegetables. Like it can mean so many things. So they have to be measurable. Eat healthier is not a goal, guys. How many cups of vegetables per day? How many ounces of water? How many calories? How many meals out? Like I said, those personal guidelines, there has to be specificity around it because otherwise, especially if you're saying, I'm going to try, I hate the word try, by the way, because try gives you an out. If you said, I'm going to try my best, no, you're going to do it or you're not going to do it. Like we have to create these measurable things of I did it or I didn't. I checked the box or I didn't and I need to do better. So make them measurable. Working out, how many times a week? What hour? What times a day? This is the biggest thing too. People will say like, I'm going to work out 3 times this week. And the next question I ask, what days, what times is it in your calendar? You have to set yourself up for success. Like I have a pretty packed schedule. I have in my Google Calendar every day what time I'm working out. I sometimes will put what time I'm eating. I will put what time I'm walking. Like I set up my whole day. It's not, I'm going to get to food when I have time. It's I'm going to put time in for my food and the rest of my day is going to go around it. So we have to start prioritizing the things that we're struggling with. Make them realistic. A New Year's resolution of removing all carbohydrates and sugar and alcohol is not realistic. Like, I know that it feels like that's what we need to do. It might feel like it's a desperate act, but it's not realistic, especially if you love carbs. Like, if you like sugar and you like carbs, we need to be realistic around what's moderation levels that are good for you. Taking small steps to get there. We talk a lot about 1% better every day. 1% better every day turns into a completely new person in the matter of 3 months even, let alone like 6 to 12 months. One small thing every day. And so what I do, and what we have a lot of our clients do, is we'll evaluate at the end of your day, what was good, what could I have done better on? And you just do an honest reflection. Like, I probably could have tried harder in my workout today. Next day, I'm going to do a 5 pounds heavier on my dumbbells. I probably could have prepped my food this week. Next week, I'm going to slot out time in my calendar on Saturday at 12 p.m. to do this. Like, what action are we taking? Not only I could do better, but what action are we taking to do it? And then making them progressive. This is the next thing that a lot of people don't realize is so necessary for goals. Allow them to be built on to continue to see progress. Okay, so what are we going to do after the diet? Okay, you want to do a diet, you want to lose weight, you want to do these things. What are you going to do afterwards? What are you going to do when you're done with the 1,200 calories that your body can't sustain? What are you going to do when you're done with keto? Because let's be honest, to be honest, no one should be on keto long-term, unless it's medically based. Like, even people that need to be on ketosis for blood sugar issues that some of our clients go on, it's 3 to 4 months tops. And then we cycle them carbs back in. You can't start at 100. You have to build to 100. We start at 100, we lose steam. You got to build to it. You got to build the consistency. You have to build the endurance. And don't just plan out the next 30 days. Like, plan out the next 6 to 12 months. I'm already planning the next 6 to 12 months of what my calories are going to look like. So this is something we talked about last seminar too. It's called nutritional periodization. The reason that calorie deficits don't work is because we can't stay in them forever. And so people don't realize that when they can't stay in them forever, they're in them for a small period of time, and then they go back to eating how they were eating, and then we gain all the weight back. Instead, for example, okay, I started 2,000 calories and I'm going to go into a healthy calorie deficit of maybe 300 to 500 calories. So say I drop down to 1,500 calories. I stay there we tell people not to stay in calorie deficits for more than about 3 to 4 months. And you need to be adherent to them. Like, as soon as you lose adherence, come out of it, because then it's just useless for your body. Because a lot of people, like, how many people have been dieting for 5 years? It's obviously not very effective if it's not working after 5 years. Like, and so we have to have adherence. And when we have a plan, it's easier to be adherent. I know I have to be in this calorie deficit for the next 3 months. And usually we take breaks during that 3 months. I'll do a refeed day once a week, or I'll do like 3 to 4 day breaks intermittently throughout that, where I'll bump calories up so that I can go have a date night and not be eating 1,500, like those types of things. And so we periodize. I'm in the calorie deficit for 3 to 4 months. And then after that, I'm going to take 3 weeks to slowly bring my calories back up to my maintenance level, which is a healthy level of calories that your body maintains its weight and gets adequate nourishment. And so for me, that's probably around like 2,000 to 2,200 calories that I eat on a regular basis that maintains my weight loss. And so then for me, I don't need to do multiple, but if you have 50, 70 pounds to lose, you're probably gonna have to do multiple phases of that. You can't just diet until you lose the weight, because your body will adapt. It will adapt to the metabolism being lower, being slower, and then you get stuck. And so we need to periodize our nutrition. If we have a big weight loss goal, you probably need to do 3 to 4 cuts of that across the next 12 to 18 months to get to that goal. But most people think next 30 days, next maybe 3 months. We don't think about what happens after the diet. And so that's probably the biggest advice that I'd give people, is like, either work with someone or plan this out on your own, to where you have a plan to come out of the calorie deficit in a healthy way, and not just, I'm done dieting, I lost 15 pounds, and now I'm going to go celebrate, because that never works well.
It's called, I guess the typical term is reverse dieting, isn't it?
Yes, reverse dieting is the period of going from calorie deficit to maintenance. And then maintenance, like, you should live most of your life in maintenance. Most people live their life, pardon my French, in a shitty calorie deficit, where they're not consistent, and they think that they're in a calorie deficit, and they think that they're dieting. But then we have, it's like people are afraid of bananas, but then we go binge drink on Saturday night. So
people like, we'll do InBody scan.
Yep.
BMR, and we're like, so this is how many calories you should be eating on a daily just to survive. And they look at me and go, oh.
Yep.
I'm like, yes, you're probably not even eating that much because
Yep.
most people's is like what, 1,400 to
Yeah.
1,600.
Mine's 1,780 calories on a day. If I laid in bed all day for my body to function optimally, I would need 1,780 calories. But then add 10,000 steps on top of that, add a tough workout on top of that, maintaining muscle mass. I should be eating, and I am eating right now in breast milk, like I'm eating about 2,500 calories right now. And that's maintained. I'm actually losing weight right now, postpartum, obviously. But like most people, I also say personal preference has to come into play here. Like eating 2,000 to 2,200 plus calories for most people in a healthy way is hard. It's a lot of food. And so I tell people like, we need to at least be at a place where your body's getting adequate nourishment. And for most people, that's women, probably around 1,700 to 2,000 calories is like a maintenance range for most women. All right. What time is it? Am I okay? Okay, perfect. All right. That was a lot. Do you guys have any questions?
I just got one online.
Mhm.
Says, this is from Suzanne. Do you have a chart for how many calories you should eat in calorie deficit? What is the formula for determining that? Also, how long are you in calorie deficit versus maintenance period?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And this is where it's really hard. I can give you guys the calculator that a lot of times we'll refer people to is tdeecalculator.net, and you can post that in the chat box. TDEE, total daily energy expenditure, tdeecalculator.net. And you enter in all your information and it gives you maintenance, it gives you calorie, you have like how many days you're working out, all that good stuff. But I will caveat this. What matters so much is your diet history and what you're currently eating. If you are currently eating in like under eating inconsistently is what I say, because if you're under eating and not losing weight, you're probably doing it inconsistently. You need to start reversing before you can lose weight. Like if someone comes to me and is eating 800 to 1,200 calories, and then like some days, weekends, they're eating way more or whatever it looks like, I'm going to probably have to spend 3 to 6 months with them, pulling them back up to like an adequate intake level before I even cut them into a calorie deficit, because your body has adapted at that place. And that's why you're not losing weight eating 800 to 1,200 calories. And so what we need to do is we need to take enough time, and sorry, it doesn't happen in like 2 weeks. You need to take enough time to where you increase calories. And sometimes people will see like their weight maintained during that time. Sometimes the anomalies lose weight during that time because you remove the stress of under eating. Some people gain a little bit of weight. And so you reverse up to this place. And then once you stay here and your body is stable there, your weight is maintained, you're sleeping well, you feel good, you have good energy, then we can cut calories back down. And usually a calorie deficit off of a maintenance, we go between like 300 to 500 calories we cut. Determining per person, completely arbitrary. There's so many factors. You know, do you have underlying health conditions? What's your diet history? What's your health history? You know, how much are you exercising? How much muscle mass do you have on you? There's so many things that come into play. But I will say that most women are under eating inconsistently and need to go through some period where they're in a maintenance. Like I said, you should live most of your life in maintenance. You don't want to stay in calorie deficits for more than 3 to 4 months. And you usually want to stay out of them as long as you were in them, at least, if you're going to go back into another one. So if like you do a calorie deficit and you come out of it for 3 months, you got to be out of it for at least 3 months before you go back into it. So you want it to be effective. You know, who wants to try and eat less and it's not even effective? At that point, we need to
recommend then, let's just say somebody who's wanting to kind of work on this just for like the general population, almost tracking their food,
yes,
whatever they're eating for like 3 to 5 days, and just like consistently, like not changing anything, just what are you
yes,
eating, write it down.
that's what we have
like,
all of our clients do.
Try to get better at it. Not 5 days, just whatever you're eating, write it down, put it in a notebook, put it in My Fitness Pal, put it in something, and you kind of see
exactly
what you are eating, and then use that calculator and say, okay, well, I am eating this, I should be eating this, and then gradually work your way up. You're adding 100 calories a week, or, you know, 150 calories a week, and then just kind of working your way maybe over a 3-month period up until that point. And then you get there, stay there for another 2 to 3 months, and then cut, right? So if you're just like general population, I think that would be the best way.
Track what you're eating for at least a week, weekends included.
100%. Yeah.
Yes. And maintenance is a range. I'll be honest. Like maintenance is not 2,130 calories. Like maintenance is a range. When I'm in maintenance, it's some days is 1,800 calories. I was super busy and didn't eat as much. Some days is 2,300 calories because I went out to eat and I had something more indulgent. Like I go off of my hunger levels some days, but a lot of times what people do is they're like, well, I'm just not hungry. I'm like, well, because you've been basically starving your body for so long and not giving it nourishment. So your body's like, screw you. I'm not going to create hunger cues. You're not ever giving me food. Like anyone wake up and they don't eat breakfast.
Oh my God, I hear that all the time. I'm never
Like
hungry in the
you've
morning.
created that scenario. You probably have blood sugar that's all over the place because you're waking up and you're doing coffee in the morning, but you're not eating. And so like, we have to get back to this place where we can allow our body to give proper cues by feeding it adequately. And then now I know I can listen to my hunger cues because I know my body's nourished. But usually we just go through the day with very inconsistent hunger, very inconsistent eating, and then our body's all over the place in terms of its blood sugar, its energy, its, you know, effectiveness for whatever we're trying to do with our diet.
I feel like that's why it's easier. That's why you have to go at adding calories slowly.
Mhm.
Because if you go too fast, you're going to get sick.
Mhm.
You're like, this is too much food.
Digestion, people get constipated.
You gotta just slowly go into it.
Yes.
While sleeping better, while ingesting more water, while doing all
Mhm.
this stuff. Because I feel like if you eat more food, you're not going to get enough water, eating enough fiber, you're going to get
Constipated.
constipated and everything like that's getting bloated and all that stuff.
Yep.
So this is a process, and I think that that's why we do these things, is because we get so many women who come in here who've seen this whole diet culture evolve so
Mhm.
much, and they've done everything. And it's like, you have to understand this stuff does not happen overnight. It
No.
doesn't. Like, it takes time. Like you said at the beginning, your journey was just consistent. It was just consistency
Mhm.
over time. It wasn't being perfect every single day for
No.
12 months out of the year. It was
No.
just staying consistent in a routine and understanding your body and understanding what you need to put in, and then asking the right questions and getting around the right people
Mhm.
so that you can get the actual help, you know?
Totally. And knowing, like, you got to have patience, guys. I get that, like, we might not be where we want to be physically. We might want change fast, but like, if things that we tried in the past didn't work and we keep trying those things that are extreme, that are, you know, like like, we got to realize at some point, okay, this hasn't worked in the past. Why do I keep doing this? Like, you know, or maybe it did work one time. I always say, like, the first time you ever diet, you're going to get bomb results. Your body's not used to it. You're going to see weight loss quick. You're going to see all these amazing things. But then every time you try to diet after that, your body gets more and more used to it. Like now when I try to cut calories, like my body's stubborn. It takes usually 6 to 8 weeks for my body to move at all when I reduce calories. And then it starts to cut. But like, we have to be patient. We have to know that, like she said, it's a process. Unfortunately, most women will not ever reverse diet because they're too afraid. They are too afraid to add calories. They're too afraid of what will happen. They're already not happy. How can you tell me to eat more if I'm not happy with my body? I need to lose weight, because it's the only way. It is the only way that you will get to a place where you can lose weight effectively and efficiently. So
Say like even if you're not a calorie deficit, it does matter what you do.
1000%. Yeah. I always battle between quantity and quality. I think that it has to be a happy marriage, because the quality of food matters so much in how your body metabolizes it. So like, for example, there's a really cool study that was done that 2 different grilled cheese sandwiches. One was whole grain, real cheese. One was white bread and Kraft singles, which, for anyone that doesn't know, Kraft singles is not actually qualified as cheese. So how the body metabolized it, they had a test group. They ate both sandwiches. The body burned 40% more calories breaking down the whole food sandwich, because you're getting nutrients from it. You're getting fiber from it. Your body has to take energy. Processed foods, guys, our body does not use energy breaking down. It basically turns to either like pure sugar. It creates inflammation. Like, there's so many things about processed food that are not good. That's just why we have to do moderation with them. The quality of food is so huge, which is why, if you ever like, does anyone know anyone that like doesn't really diet, but they just eat a lot of really great food, like whole unprocessed foods? They never struggle with weight. They don't have to count calories. They don't have to worry about that, because the quantity, like,
Oh, poor child. Yeah, and then she had to ask the next day.
but like the quality of food, exactly, because the quality of food basically autopilots all of this stuff. It allows you to have proper hunger cues. It gets your body adequate nourishment. You don't have crazy cravings. Like, if anyone's been addicted to sugar and removed sugar, cravings go away over time. Like, when your body has the right things that's given to it, it becomes a lot easier. It's just making the mindset shift of, I want to, like, a lot of people think that they have to lose the weight to get to a healthy, like being a healthy person. No, decide in this moment that you're a healthy person and you make healthy choices. You don't have to wait until you get somewhere. Like, make that change right now. No one is stopping that other than you, and thinking that like, I can't be healthy unless I look healthy. No, I choose to not, like, for example, tonight, we're probably gonna go out and get pizza because that's what my husband has to have. I get a salad and grilled chicken at the pizza place because I don't like how I feel when I eat pizza. And that's my choice. It's not because I'm restricting myself. It's not because I'm depriving myself. Sometimes I'll have pizza, sometimes, but like, there's no reason I need pizza tonight. And so I know I want to feel good the next day when I wake up. I want to be happy with my body. I want to feel confident. And that choice alone makes me feel confident. Like, no, this is my choice because I'm a healthy person and I make healthy choices.
Would you say Whole30, like generally speaking, is a good place to start to learn?
Way too restrictive. It's a great foundation. I like paleo as like a foundation. Yeah, if you want to use as a, I think Whole30 is great. I do. I don't like how restrictive it is because I've seen a lot of people do it and come off of it like hard and feel awful when they come off of it. But paleo is another great fun. Paleo and Whole30 are similar. I use them as a foundation. Like 80 to 90% of your food should be that food. And then there's some fun stuff in there. Like on Whole30, I don't get cream, but I like cream in my coffee and I don't feel sick when I eat it. So,
you know, you read so much stuff online.
Yep.
One person says this,
yeah.
another person says this person says this, and it's like, okay, well, what's right?
Exactly. And that's the hard thing. Because if someone comes to me and has major bloating, they have gut issues, they have SIBO, they shouldn't be doing paleo because fiber is going to jack up their gut and they need to solve their gut problems first. And so that's why it's so hard. But like in general, I say if you are a relatively healthy person with not a lot of huge like health issues, paleo-ish should be 80% plus of your diet makeup.
I feel like you're gonna, there's a question online, and I feel like you will speak to this really well because I'm sure you've dealt with this.
Yes.
Does taking and or being on birth control make it hard to lose weight?
Oh, that's a great question. You guys, I really hate birth control. The reason I hate birth control, I'll see this really fast, is because doctors hand it out like candy. It's like, oh, you have bad periods, here's birth control. Oh, you have cramps, here's birth control. Oh, you don't want to get pregnant, here's birth control. You guys, there's so many side effects to birth control that they don't even tell you. Like coming off of birth control, people, it wreaks havoc on your body. Especially certain ones, like especially I think the depot shot is like one of the worst ones that I've seen reactions to. Birth control shuts down your hormonal system. So like the period you get when you're on birth control is not a period. It's a breakthrough bleed basically. And so what it does is it shuts down the communication between your brain and your ovaries, and you don't create hormones. Hormones are extremely important for female health. So like the first half of your cycle when estrogen is high, estrogen is very protective. It helps you manage carbohydrates easier. It helps you basically be more resilient to stress. And then progesterone comes in. Progesterone's like your calm hormone. It calms estrogen down. You usually feel like, I don't want to do as much leading up to your period, right? You're more tired. You're kind of more like moody. Those things are necessary. Hormonal birth control depletes nutrients. People have a ton of nutrient deficiencies and vitamin deficiencies when they're on hormonal birth control and coming off of it. And so I don't know if anyone's ever heard of Dr. Jolene Brighton. This is like her work. Look her up. She talks about post-hormonal birth control syndrome and preparing your body to come off of birth control because of how many nutrient deficiencies and vitamin deficiencies that exist, because it impacts the hormonal basically communication that runs a lot of things within the body that's important. So in terms of weight, if someone has hormonal imbalances and goes on hormonal birth control, those don't disappear. Like the problems of a bad period don't disappear, even though it might shut it off for a little bit. Usually when you get off of it, it comes back with a vengeance. Like there's a reason you have heavy periods. There's a reason you have horrible cramping. It's usually because of high levels of inflammation, gut issues, all of those things. And so with birth control, it's kind of just band-aiding all of the problems and sometimes allowing them to get worse. And so believe me, there is nothing more that I want right now to go on birth control. I just had a child. I was pregnant. We had a miscarriage at like 20 weeks with my second pregnancy. I've been pregnant for like 2 years. There is nothing more than I want to have birth control, but I know what it does to the body. And knowing what it does to the body kind of makes you second guess about it. Again, it's everyone's choice. I get it. Like, believe me, I took it for very, very many years of my life, but educate yourself. I always say like, at least be informed about what you're putting in your body.
There was a follow-up question on that on the IUD. Is it the same?
Yes. So the non-hormonal IUD, the copper IUD, is something that a lot of people will do because it's non-hormonal. And what it does is it essentially creates inflammation in your ovaries. That's how it stops the pregnancy from happening. There has been recent studies, though, that just came out, actually, I think within the past few weeks that show that it affects breast tissue and it can affect breastfeeding. And so it doesn't just basically reside in the ovaries. The IUD claims to be like just that area, but technically not. And I'll be honest, I've seen a lot of horror stories about the IUD shifting and having it be like surgically removed and having a lot of those issues. So again, it could be totally fine, guys, but be informed, know the risks. We worked with a lot of women that have had a lot of issues because of birth control.
Is there anything that you would recommend, like if, say, somebody wanted to come off of birth control, like just basics? Like,
Yeah, magnesium, B vitamins, zinc. I don't remember the other two. There's two other ones, but loading up on vitamins and nutrients, really whole and processed foods diet, lots of water, and give yourself probably 3 to 6 months for your body to regulate. Irregular periods, heavy bleeding, skin issues can all be pretty common coming off birth control. Yeah. Anyone else? I don't mean to like fear monger birth control. It's just, it is something that I feel very strongly about because I think that women, unfortunately, are very misinformed around it. Okay. So you can find us. If you have questions, I will stay for a few minutes. If you guys want to ask questions personally, you can email me, Becca@fitmomlife.com. Fitmomlife.com is our website. And then myself and my business partner have a podcast that we do 3 episodes a week. We have a ton of content on there. I think we actually have a birth control only podcast in there. We've done like 200 plus podcasts. The Food Code is the name of the podcast. So there's lots and lots of content on that.
Between that podcast and our podcast, podcasts.
I know. Yes.
I think honestly, the biggest reason why we want to do these nutrition seminars, and I would really like, what would make me and my heart so happy is if you guys could force me about your experience coming here right first day. We have 270 people in the studio, and there are 6 of you here, and a lot of want to.
And you know, a lot of people say nutrition when you ask.
I know.
So many questions, and nobody wants to even like drive around and help them like Zoom and just listen while they're shopping. Like, it's very frustrating because
Totally.
for me, especially because like we want to give you all this stuff for free. Like just come in and take your Saturday to learn and like be informed. That's the biggest thing. Be informed, because what happens when you're not informed is you make bad choices and then you're back to square one. Like you go on the keto diet or you go on this, you go on that, and then it doesn't work. You're back to square one and you're coming in here canceling your membership because you're like, I'm not getting results. And then the first question I ask you, well, how's your eating? And you look at me like this, like you're in the headlights. And I'm like, okay, well, you can't help. You can't come in here and just work out and expect everything to change. Yeah, workouts will change. Like, of course it will.
Yeah.
But you literally cannot exercise a bad diet. Like,
People highly overestimate how much working out plays a role in terms of like calorie burn.
Yes.
They're like, I just did this really hard workout. I'm going to go eat burger and fries, or I'm going to go get pancakes and yes.
Yeah. And I think the thing that I believe in the most is that you have to still live life. Like we're not sitting up here saying like you have to eat fruit and vegetables every single day of your life, but you got to decide. It's a decision you have to make. You either want to be a healthier person and you make healthier choices while still living life, or you just don't do it at all. Like you know, but you can't also say like, well, I want
these things.
Right. Yeah. Or like come in and sign up, and I'm like, listen, you have all these bad thoughts in your head. So how about you just come in here and work out for like 30 days? Just give me 30 days of workouts and I'll be happy with that. After that, we start pulling in the nutrition stuff and we start talking about that. But you got to learn. And I think, and I'll talk like even with the maintenance and going in a deficit, I'll be honest, like the last 3 months, I just ate whatever the hell I want. I don't care. I gained 5 or 6 pounds. I felt I was big. I was like, I don't care. Like I'm just gonna eat what I want. Like I'm happy. I'm working out. I feel good. But now I cut it back down again, and I lost 3 pounds this week. But I'm not eating 1,200 calories. I'm still about 1,800 calories a day.
You're just being consistent at a slightly lower intake.
I think the fear of gaining weight is what stops people from doing that. Which it's gonna happen. Like you're gonna gain pounds, but it's like it's gonna come off. You just have to.
And some people might not. And I think like we're working with, I don't know if you guys know Jennifer Biancalana, she comes here. We're working with her, working with Terry, who just stopped. Jen is consistently eating 1,700 and 1,900 calories. She's lost like 30 pounds. Just consistency there. Like it's more than most people would think they should eat. But what people don't realize is that your weekends, your time, your days where like you're going out to eat multiple times, or you're probably in a calorie surplus that you don't even realize. And then we have days where we're super low. And then there's like these huge swings for the body, which the body doesn't do well on. Like the body wants consistency. You should probably have a consistent schedule that you're eating most days. Like I eat breakfast by 9 a.m. I eat lunch by 12 or 1. I eat dinner at set. Like some people go the whole day. I didn't eat all day. I just forgot. No, you didn't forget. Like you choose not to eat. It's not a forget thing. Like this is a habit that we've created. And then it's too late. You shouldn't get like ravenous, guys. If you're super hungry, that means your blood sugar has already probably dropped too low and now you're starving. Like that's not healthy for the body. So consistency, create consistency.
Yeah. So Becca does do nutritional coaching. So if you guys want to reach out to her, Jen, if you know Jen,
Biancalana.
Short blonde hair. You can't really miss her.
She's so funny.
She's very loud.
She is.
Yeah, she comes in at night. She'd be a good testimonial.
She's so funny.
Becca is great at what she does. There's always not a brother around. Honestly, one of the biggest reasons that I reached out to Becca, it was a referral, but secondly, she has her own journey and her own story. And I feel like people like that are relatable. When you come from a place where you've had your own struggles and things that you've gone through with, I think that when you're relatable, it's easier to work with somebody who kind of understands what you're going through. So reach out to her. Obviously, she's happy to get on a call with you guys and see if there's something that she can help you with. Check out our podcast. This is something that we want to start doing quarterly for you guys because I think it's really important for you guys to continually learn about nutrition. Other than that,
make sure there aren't any more. Is there a specific time at night before bed that you should stop eating? I love that question. It's not what time you eat at night, it's what you eat at night. 1000%. Like it's so much more matters what you've eaten in a day than what you eat at night. Guys, I eat at like 8:30 or 9 p.m. every night because I get my children down and I don't eat before they go to bed. And like they're at bed at 8:15, 8:30. And so I have zero problem because it's what I'm eating. Most people undernourished throughout the day and then they eat a bunch of shit at night. And that is the problem. Intermittent fasting doesn't have some magic to it. To be honest, it can be kind of unhealthy for a lot of women that have blood sugar issues. And so I tell people like, be consistent with what you're eating in a day. And yeah, it's good to not eat right before you go to bed if you can help it. And so maybe you stop eating at like 6 or 7 p.m. But if you have a work that you don't get home until but you haven't eaten all day, you need to eat. So again, doesn't matter what time you stop eating, it matters what you eat.
Yeah, I was gonna say one thing about a lot of people get into like for me, I track macros. Like that's kind of what I do, just kind of flexible dieting. But I feel like you also can't take that to the extreme of like, flexible diet, I eat shit all the time.
Exactly. Quality matters.
Quality of your food does matter. So
greatly.
I know she talked a lot about cooking your food and things like that. If that's not something in your wheelhouse, Marciea and I buy meals from Soap. Like, we buy Soap. That's our partner here for our prep service.
We have a couple people that buy stuff.
30 meals from her every week. It's so nice because the macros are on the container. I know what's in there. I know
portion controlled.
Like everything is all there for me. It's easy for me to track. So I just dump it right in my fitness pal. It's there. The only things I have to think about are snacks. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner from her.
Oh wow.
Because we are busy and like
totally.
There's a lot of things going on, and when I just know I can grab a meal out of the fridge.
That works so well for people.
It just makes it so much easier. So there are tools out there for you to utilize. If you're a cook, fantastic. If you like to cook, prep your food. But if you're like, shit, I hate to cook.
Or if you need variety. We talked to a lot of people that need variety.
So it's a great opportunity for you guys to set yourself up.
Yep.
Fail to plan to fail. Is that the old age thing that you're saying? So there are tools, there are, and I think that's one of the bases behind LadyStrong. Like we want to give you all of the tools.
Yes. It's nice.
We want to give you the workouts. We want to give you all the things and the truth, not like this like bad diet. This is the truth. This is what women's fitness and health
work hard.
Like, and this is what you need to do to get it done. And we have all the things that you need here, all of the connections and the resources. So reach out to Becca, follow her podcast. Please follow her on Instagram, follow their stuff on Instagram. She's a lot of help. So
okay, being a vegetarian makes it tough to get enough protein without compromising on calories. How do you deal with the extra calories consumed? I would have to look at your diet particularly. I would need to know why you're a vegetarian. I have a lot of questions, so feel free to email me.
Some of these are loaded questions.
Yeah, you guys, and vegetarian you can totally do. Like I have no problem with that. You can utilize like a collagen protein powder. You can utilize a plant-based protein powder. Utilizing like more vegetables instead of starches, because a lot of people that are like vegan use a lot of more starchy things. And I have no problem with like tofu, even like Beyond Burgers to an extent are okay. But yeah, I would just be curious like why the vegetarianism. Yeah, that's all. I mean, like everyone has their reasons and a lot of them are very justified. But I will be totally straightforward. Like it's not healthy to completely remove animal proteins. There's too many nutrients that you miss. And it's really like, and I fear for especially like the children that parents are starting to do it too. I've seen a lot of really sad stories. So yeah, like dental development and like growth development, because kids need the nutrients that you get from animal proteins and animal sources. And most people don't do it properly. If they do it, like there's a lot of things you have to supplement with when you are vegan, and even sometimes vegetarian, depending on what you do consume. So I get the concept of it. And I think it's very misguided. And it's usually like, if you look at, you guys don't watch Netflix for any type of nutritional advice. It's very, very heavily profit fueled. The people that like if anyone watched Game Changers, I can't count how many people came to me after Game Changers and the vegan thing. The people that paid for Game Changers run a plant-based protein company. Like they want you to start buying their products by doing that. So
I had a girl that I worked out with years ago, and she was a vegetarian, and she wasn't able to-
religious reasons.
So
Yeah,
bad.
iron can be a big one.
Someone I know personally, which I was very concerned about, was doing a vegan diet for many years, and they've had 2 pregnancies, but the one pregnancy they almost had to transfusion.
Yeah.
And also every time she ate something, she'd throw up. Like
Yeah,
yeah, they had to bomb this major medication.
it's crazy. People don't realize like the repercussions. That's the hard thing. And some people can be healthier because you start eating like vegetables and fruits, which a lot of people that like all of a sudden go vegan, then they start eating a lot more of that and are healthier. But it's not the absence of meat, it's the inclusion of the good stuff. So for religious reasons, I totally get that. With vegetarianism, unfortunately with vegetarianism, there's a lot of options. You can do a lot of things with vegetarian. Vegan's a lot harder. Utilizing high protein vegetables like Brussels sprouts and broccoli, you can utilize tofu, you can utilize all of those edamame, and then just trying to keep heavy starches out, knowing that a lot of your protein sources are going to come from starches.
And I think supplementing in other ways too,
Mhm.
like greens,
Mhm.
greens, the reds, like your magnesium,
That's what I have.
your multivitamins, yeah, things like
I
that.
love greens and reds. It helps me go to the bathroom regularly. It's powders. Yeah, it's coarse form greens and reds. It's like the only brand of greens and reds that don't taste like dirt. Yeah, these are together. Oh yeah, that. I don't know if I would do it pre-workout. That would make, I feel like greens and reds in my stomach pre-workout might.
So, first one I think is the greens and reds. I think Jen does the greens and reds from
Mhm.
first one
Yep.
together.
Yeah, that's this.
So they get.
No, it's like fruity. Especially if you put the reds with it, it's like a little sweet and
They
fruity.
really tried to make this smell good, and they tried to make this smell good, and it still smells like shit. So, but it's good for you, and you should see when you're drinking it. Yeah, like mix them together, like the greens and the reds are fruit, and then the greens are the vegetables.
Yep.
So people will mix them together in a shaker.
Got
and
awesome
smoothie or
fiber.
something like that. It's good fiber. If you're struggling to get veggies and fruits in the day.
It's good for like supplementing. Still eat vegetables.
First one also has magnesium. that
Yep.
you can get.
They have everything.
All that multi-
Yep.
antioxidants, they're multivitamin, fish oil, all that stuff you guys can get from
Yep.
But this stuff, you should be.
That's the only thing. I don't take many supplements. I take greens and reds. I take protein, and then I do magnesium because I think every female should be on magnesium. That's the one supplement. It's like a super supplement, especially if you have bad periods or like negative side. Oh my gosh. I usually do I up magnesium prior to cycle for women because it helps a ton. Most people are magnesium deficient because magnesium is your nutrient that like gets depleted when you're stressed, and most people are chronically stressed.
Even if you're on a work
Yep, it
So would
helps.
you recommend that even for like 14-year-old? My daughter was out of school for 2 days.
Yeah, that's the hard thing with young kids. Like when I was young, I had horrible cramps too that would debilitate me.
And I was considering.
It's hard. Fiber. Yeah, like the reason that that a lot of that can happen is like when you're young, your body's kind of regulating its hormones when you like just start getting your period for the first like 5 to 7 years. Lots of water. And that's the hard thing with like teenage kids. It's like you need more vegetables, you need more fiber, you need more water. It wouldn't be dangerous. I would just start with like a lower dose, like maybe 200 milligrams. We usually like research shows up to like 2000 safe. So yeah. And magnesium, MAG SRT is my favorite brand. So MAG SRT. It has a B vitamin in it. It has like, it's my favorite brand of magnesium that like combine, because there's about 10 different types of magnesium. Don't do magnesium citrate unless you're constipated. That's basically a laxative. Magnesium glycinate and magnesium malate are the two that are helpful. So I would start obviously low, start with like 200 to 300 milligrams a day. And then upwards, sometimes women that have like really bad cycles will go up to like 600 to 800 milligrams for the few days leading into their cycle. And get a good magnesium, guys. Like there's a reason First Form protein costs what it costs, and like GNC brand costs $19. Like there's a reason. It's better quality. It's easier on your body to digest. It's more absorbable. Like get high quality supplements.
What did you say you wanted in
Magnesium glycinate or magnesium malate are usually the two that are the most helpful forms for women.
Yeah, the First Form magnesium has the magnesium.
Glycinate. Yep. Yeah.
You get that.
Mhm.
There's a strawberry kiwi.
Oh, it's a flavored.
Yeah, strawberry kiwi lemon tea or peach drink.
Interesting. Most of them are pills, and they're usually big pills.
I don't do pills well.
Magnesium pills are sometimes bigger. Magnesium oxide for migraines. Which, I would start, most pills are about 200 to 300 milligrams, like single pills for magnesium. So I would start about 200 to 300 milligrams a day, and then up it somewhere around like 500 to 800 milligrams for the few days leading into your period, if you have really bad periods. And give it a couple months. Like obviously your body needs to replenish its nutrient stores. Awesome.
Well, obviously, thank you, Becca.
Of course. I know. I'm good. I'm good. I'm not pregnant this time, so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Other than that, you guys are free to go.
Yes. Thank you, guys.
One of the supplements that we talked about, you can send us a message. Obviously, this is something fun, so if you guys have any questions on that or anything, let us know. But thanks for coming. Appreciate you guys coming in today.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate you, ladies on Zoom. We will see you guys next time. Bye.
Thank you. If anyone has any questions.
Yeah.